Hi everyone, this is your next homework video. It's all about calculation concepts, and this is the Getting Secure version. Now the first thing to understand when we're calculating is what we'd call the commutative law. You don't need to remember that name, but you do need to understand the concept. About the order in which operations are done. Here, 285 and 115, it doesn't matter the order in which I add those blocks, I'll still end up with a total 400. Now, when I switch that around to a subtraction, I've got to recognise that the total is actually the number that comes first, and then these second two numbers are actually the ones that are interchangeable. The second example shows 9 times 5 is 45. I've got 9 5 times. Now, when I do the inverse, check where the big number goes, if you like, the total, the 45. It's first. Now, let's see if you can apply that understanding to quickly answer these two questions. So hopefully you understand that these are essentially the same. I'm looking at the whole is this bit here or this bit here, and I'm saying how many of these are in them. And I could draw them diagrammatically like that each time. I'm saying how many 25s in 200? Of course it's 8. And how many 12s in 60? There are 5. The key there, of course, is recognising that the whole is the first number here in a division. Now, let's see if you can apply that understanding to answer these three questions. Fill in the missing gaps. Of course, for the first question, the key is recognising that we're missing the whole, the number that would almost go on the top. So I'll need to find that by adding these two numbers together and getting 430. If I take away 130, it'll leave me with 300. On the second example, I'm saying to myself, how many 12s are there in 120? Of course, there are 10. 120 divided by 10 leaves us with 12. And in just the same way for the last example, that's the whole there, the 120. How many 15s are there in 120? And of course there are 8. Now I want to have a look at a common misconception, and that's where we're doing a multiplication or a division in two steps. I've put 2 up, 12 times 10 times 4, and then 800 divided by 20 and divided by 4. Now you might think that the first one is 12 times 40, or you might think it's 12 times 14, and similarly the second one you might see is 800 divided by 24, or 800 divided by 80. I want you to see if you can figure out which one it is and why. Pause the video and have a think. Now, if I remember that multiplication is essentially adding, then I should be able to understand this question. Here, if I do 12 times by 10, I know that I've essentially added 12 10 times. And then if I do all that by 4, I've essentially got 40 lots of 12. That's because this is 10 lots of 12, and if I do it 4 times, I've got 40 lots, not 14 lots. You can't get there just by adding the numbers up. Similarly, on the second example, imagine that this whole box is worth 800. If I divide it by 20, I've split it into 20 pieces. And then if I divide it by 4 again, I'm essentially splitting it another 4 times. There, I've divided it by 80 in total, not by 24. Again, you can't just add those two numbers up to think that that's the number that it's dividing by. Now we're going to have a look at written multiplication, and we want to see if you can make a link between the grid method, the long method for multiplication, and a shorter form, and see how they're similar. So for 316 times 42, with the grid I'm essentially multiplying all the bits of the 316 by all the bits of the 42 and adding them up. And of course that's the same with the other method. 6 times 2 is 12, 2 times 1 is 20 and add the 1, 32, so I've essentially added those two numbers there. 2 3s are 6 there, so I've added that 600 there, they're ready to go. Now I need to multiply by all the bits of the 40, and I'm going to put a 0 there, and essentially act as if it's a 4. 4 6s are 24, so I've added this number here, and then I'm going to do 4 1s are 4, add the 2 is 6 in the hundreds column, I've added this one here, and finally 3 2s are 12, and I've added this bit here. Now with the shortened form, the process for adding the numbers up, basically, is a lot more straightforward. Here, essentially, I would just need to do 2 add 0 is 2, 3 and 4 is 7, 6 and 6 is 12, 1 and 2 is 3, and then that's the 10,000, so 13,272. Whereas the grid method, of course, I'd have to add all of these numbers, a much more cumbersome process. Now, see if you can have a go at answering this question using the shortened method for multiplication. So I'm going to work through the calculation and see if you can match your methods. So 73 times 24. First of all, I'm going to do the 4 times 3, carry the 1 and put down the 2. 4 sevens are 28, so again I'll put the 20 and add the 1, 29. And then I'm going to multiply by the 20s, so I'll put the 0 down. 2 3s are 6. 2 sevens are 14, and then all that's left is for me to add those numbers. I'm going to write it out again, those two numbers again, just so that I don't add any of the remainders, and then it's just a case of adding the columns. 9 and 6 is 15, carry the 1, there we go. And finally, have a go at answering this question. Now consider the form that the answer needs to take. What are you being asked for, and what format will the answer need to be in? Pause the video and have a go. Now first of all, I hope that you found the link between multiplication and division. So 42 times by what makes 500, or as a division really what we're saying is how many 42s in 500? Well, if I had 10 coaches, that would leave me with 80 people. And one more coach would leave me with 38 people left. So, how many coaches will I need? Well, I'll need 10 coaches for those 420 people, another 1 for the 42 people, and I will need another coach for those 38 as well. So my answer would have to be 12 coaches. I need to round up, of course, because I can't leave anyone behind, and I need to realise that my answer needs to take the form coaches. Great stuff. We'll see you back in class to go over all of these issues.